Welcome. This explainer is produced by EasyPathUni in coordination with Yazan Ibrahim. Today, we're diving into the 2.2 core principles of ISO 31000. Our whole goal here is to keep it interactive and really simple, using a ton of real-world examples so you can see how these concepts work and hopefully apply them yourselves. So, you ready? Let's get into it.
So, to really get why risk management is such a big deal right now, you've got to understand just how much the world has changed. For a long time, we talked about living in a VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But honestly, things have gotten even crazier. We've moved into what many now call a BANI world, and that stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. In this kind of world, having a rock-solid risk framework, well, it's not just a nice to have, it's an absolute must.
Okay, so keeping that chaotic Bonnie world in mind, let's dig into the 8 core principles of ISO 31000. First up, we're going to look at the 2 big foundational ones, the why behind the whole thing. All right, principle number 1, this is the big one. It's all about creating value. And this is where things get really interesting, because this idea completely flips the scripts on what risk management is. See, it's not just about stopping bad stuff from happening. No, its real job is to help good stuff happen. Think about it. A company's looking at investing in, say, some cutting-edge solar panel tech. By getting a handle on the risks up front, they can jump in with confidence, grab a huge market advantage, and really polish their brand. It's all about making those smart, bold moves that actually push the company forward. Okay, on to the second foundational principle. This one is all about breaking down those silos.
You just can't have your risk management team stuck in some corner office totally separate from everyone else. It just doesn't work. It has to be woven into the very fabric of the organization, from the boardroom all the way down to what people do every single day. Because when risk thinking is stuck in a silo, you end up with massive blind spots. Imagine the marketing team launching this amazing new campaign, but they never talk to the legal team. Suddenly, you've got a huge legal risk you never saw coming. Integration means everyone is on the same page, looking at the same picture, and that's how you build a company that can actually withstand a few bumps.
All right, so we've got our foundation, create value and integrate everything. Now let's talk about building the actual framework. These next couple of principles are basically the blueprint for your whole system.
So, principle number 3, this is all about being organized and clear.
Basically, this means you need a plan. You can't just be winging it, reacting to problems as they happen. A structured approach means you have clear processes, you use tools like risk registers, and you have consistent ways to analyze things. When you do it this way, you get data you can actually trust. For example, if you're looking for a new supplier and you use the exact same checklist to evaluate every single one, you're going to make a much, much better choice in the end. It's just common sense, right? But, and this is a big but, Principle 4 is here to remind us that a cookie-cutter approach is a recipe for disaster. No 2 companies are the same. This is so important. A one-size-fits-all solution just doesn't fly. Your risk framework has to be tailored to your unique situation, your size, your culture, your industry, what you're trying to achieve. I mean, think about it. The risks a giant global bank worries about are going to be wildly different from the risks a small local nonprofit faces. The bank is all about financial markets and regulations. The nonprofit is worried about fundraising and community reputation. The whole point is to make it fit you.
Okay, so a framework is like a blueprint for a house. It's essential, but it's just a piece of paper, right? It's static. Now we need to talk about the principles that bring it to life, the living, breathing parts that make the whole thing actually work.
And that brings us to principle number 5, which is all about being quick on your feet, about adapting.
Okay, so here's the deal. Risk management has to be dynamic. It has to move. The world is constantly changing, so your risk process can't be set in stone. You can't just do a risk assessment in January and then shelve it for the rest of the year. I mean, what happens when a brand new cyber threat pops up in the second quarter? You have to be able to react, to reassess, maybe even pivot your entire strategy. It's a constant cycle of looking ahead, spotting changes, and responding to them.
So how do you make these quick, dynamic decisions? What do you need? Well, that's what principle number 6 is all about.
You can't make good decisions in a vacuum, right? You need the best information you can possibly get. And that means casting a wide net. We're talking stakeholder insights, historical data, expert opinions, what your competitors are doing, even using things like advanced analytics and AI to spot patterns humans might miss. For instance, a retail company could use AI to sift through mountains of customer data to flag potential fraud. And just as important, you have to be honest about what you don't know, about the uncertainties and the gaps in your information. All right, now we come to what might be the trickiest, most important part of this whole equation: people, the human factor.
Because at the end of the day, it's people who make the decisions. And we humans, well, we're complicated. We're driven by our company's culture and all sorts of psychological biases. Like confirmation bias, where you only look for evidence that proves what you already believe. Or overconfidence bias, where we all think we're a little better at things than we actually are. A really good risk management system has to take this stuff into account. You have to build a culture where it's okay for someone to raise their hand and say, hey, I think this is a bad idea. And you need to train people to spot these biases, both in others and in themselves.
So we've got the blueprint, we've got the engine, but how do we make sure it keeps running smoothly and actually improves over time? That's where our final principle comes in. This is the one that creates that flywheel effect, making the whole system better and stronger. And that eighth and final principle is continual improvement.
This is so key. Risk management isn't a one-and-done project. It's a loop. It never stops. A great way to think about it is the plan, do, check, act cycle. You plan your approach. You do it. You implement the process. You check your results. Did it work? What went wrong? And then you act on what you learned to make it better next time. So maybe you plan to roll out a new cybersecurity system. You do it. Then you check. You run tests. You see if it's stopping threats. And then you act. You tweak it. You improve it. Every time you go through that cycle, your system gets a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger.
So let's bring it all home. When you put all 8 of these principles together, what do you get? What's the big idea here? It's this. Risk management stops being just a defensive shield to hide behind. It transforms. It becomes a strategic tool, something that actually helps you innovate and grow. It's what gives you the confidence to go after big opportunities. And that really leaves just one last question for you to think about. For your own organization, is your risk management just a shield, something you use to protect what you already have? Or is it a launchpad, something that's actually helping you shoot for the stars? Because honestly, the answer to that question could be the difference between just getting by and truly taking off.